Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes just as we see some people are still joining, and we will start very soon. Thank you. Good morning, and a very warm welcome to the River Flooding Adaptation and Resilience, or RIFAR Challenge Webinar 2026. I'm Pri from the Securities Commission, or SC, and I'll be your MC for today. The RIFAR Challenge is organized by the SC in collaboration with ICAEW, Lembaga Urus Air Selangor, or LUAS, Landasan Lumayan Sendirian Berhad, or LLSB, Master Developer of the Selangor Maritime Gateway, and the Jeffrey Sachs Center on Sustainable Development, or JSC. Now, I promise that's about all the abbreviations I have for you today. For those attending, I have a feeling you may be familiar with the SC's inaugural Adaptation Challenge held last year, also known as the COFAR Challenge. It drew participation from over 220 students across 29 universities and presented incredibly innovative solutions to tackle coastal flooding along Selangor's coast. Now, we thought to ourselves, what could we do to carry that energy forward into 2026? We realized traveling out to Carey Island may have been a little far, so we decided to bring the challenge inland this year, to a source of flooding you likely see and experience regularly. Now, if you've been asking yourself, why has it been raining more than usual? Or why are the drains overflowing? Or is it just me, or am I getting stuck in traffic often as a result of heavy rain? You're not alone. Increasing changes in our climate influence the magnitude and frequency of flooding, leading to the impacts you see today. But let me not spoil this any further. In this webinar, we'll walk you through the state of rivers in Selangor, including challenges and environmental pressures. We'll officially launch the RIFAR Challenge, giving you insight into its two components, the sprint and the marathon. And we'll give you a deep dive into the Marathon Challenge site, providing expert tips to help you understand the challenge and shape your solutions. Feel free to use the Q&A function throughout the webinar, and we'll try our best to answer your questions. Now, without further ado, please allow me to introduce SC Chairman Dato Muhammad Faiz Azmi for his opening remarks.
Madam Shanola Gonzalez, Head of ICW Malaysia, Puan Hasdina binti Amir, Chief Assistant Director, Lembaga Urus Air Selangor, Encik Ashazari bin Anwar, Director of Project Management, Landasan Lumayan, Master Developer of Selangor Maritime Gateway, Professors, students, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Welcome to the River Flooding Adaptation and Resilience or RIFAR Challenge launch webinar organized by the Securities Commission Malaysia. I would like to record my appreciation to our partners, ICW Malaysia, Lembaga Urus Air Selangor, Selangor Maritime Gateway, Bail Landasan Lumayan, and the Jeffrey Sachs Center on Sustainable Development for their commitment and expertise, which will greatly benefit this initiative. My heartfelt thanks also goes to students participating. It reflects your desire to make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, a survey of 1,100 Malaysians on climate change reveals a stark concern. 75% of the respondents identified floods as their single biggest worry. It is a natural disaster that it is disruptive and whose impact does not discriminate. Yet despite this awareness, 54% of them said they feel unprepared for such disasters. That gap between knowing and doing is what we now need to close. It is a gap that your generation, more than any other, has to bridge. So this webinar is an invitation to act. We're not here to discuss the problem, but to find solutions via this platform. The urgency is also not hypothetical. Since 2000, floods have accounted for 85% of all natural disasters recorded in this country. Additionally, flood-related losses nationwide amounted to over 630 million in 2025. These only account for measurable losses such as damage to property, vehicles, and public infrastructure. Public assets and infrastructure accounted for the highest losses, rising to 380 million, up from 303 million the year before. However, the human toll, the trauma, displacement, and lost livelihoods does not appear in any balance sheet. At the heart of this challenge are our rivers. Malaysia has river basins covering 70% of our land area, and 97% of the country's raw water supply is drawn from these rivers and other water sources. In the Klang Valley, Sungai Selangor alone supplies more than 60% of household water needs. However, these rivers are under increasing pressure. Rapid urbanization has reduced the land's ability to absorb rainwater. Pollution and waste has also clogged drainage channels and the rivers. At the same time, climate change is intensifying rainfall patterns. And as a result, areas along the Klang and Selangor river basins will face higher flood risks moving forward, with even more communities and economic activities impacted. Last year, the SC organized the Coastal Flooding Adaptation and Resilience, or COFA Challenge. COFA drew 220 students from 29 universities, both local and international. Participating teams visited Carey Island in Selangor and developed practical adaptation proposals encompassing nature-based and engineering solutions, as well as capital market financing plans. The winners were recognized at the regional conference we organized in November last year, with 50,000 ringgit in total prizes awarded. More importantly, the ideas produced were grounded in real-world needs. They were not theoretical exercises. That is the standard set, and the standard RIFAR must carry forward. With RIFAR, our attention now shifts inland to the rivers that run through our most populated and economically vital corridors. While the focus has moved from coastal flooding, the stakes remain just as high. Therefore, let me reiterate what I shared with the COFA Challenge participants. Your ideas matter, and the solutions of tomorrow must begin now. So you may wonder why a capital market regulator is organizing a university challenge on rivers. The answer lies in our conviction that the capital market must be a force for climate resilience. RIFAR is part of our transition, resilience, and adaptation in the Capital Market Initiative, or TRAC. Malaysia requires an estimated 392 billion over the next 50 years for climate adaptation. The simple reality is public funding alone cannot close the adaptation financing gap. Therefore, TRAC aims to strengthen the capital markets' role in mobilizing finance for climate transition, adaptation, and resilience. Under the SC's recently launched Capital Market Master Plan, sustainability is one of the central pillars. Our adaptation and resilience agenda includes site visits and knowledge partnerships, with this challenge a core part of that strategy. RIFAR is both a competition and a proof of concept. It's a platform to showcase how market-based approaches, combined with young minds, can generate viable adaptation solutions. What you design here may one day inform real financing structures and public infrastructure. For the first time, this year's challenge comprises two tracks, the sprint and the marathon, to engage students across all disciplines. The sprint is really an awareness challenge, where teams produce a social media reel highlighting river-related issues in Selangor. It is open to all university students in Malaysia. You do not need to have an engineering or finance background. What matters is that you have a story to tell. The marathon is a deeper technical challenge. Teams will design an integrated flood mitigation intervention for Taman Sri Muda along Sungai Rasau. The task is to combine an engineering approach with capital market solutions and climate co-benefits, such as renewable energy generation. Participants can undertake site visits and receive expert mentoring while progressing through structured checkpoints before their final submissions. To all the students here today, let me leave you with this. The challenge is real and demands new thinking. However, you have something that policymakers, engineers, and financiers working in silos often lack: fresh eyes and desire. What we hope to see from RIFAR goes beyond competition entries. We hope to see proposals that communities can adopt and financing structures that investors can fund. COFA has shown what's possible, and we're counting on RIFAR to go further. Thank you, and I wish you all the best.
A big thank you to Dato' Faiz for those inspiring words. As Dato' Faiz rightly pointed out, your interdisciplinarity is your strength. Use it to your advantage. COFAR was brilliant, and we are counting on you to go further. Next up, I would like to introduce Puan Haslina binti Amer, Chief Assistant Director at LUAS. LUAS is the Water Management Authority for the state of Selangor, responsible for the regulation of Selangor's water, including its rivers. In this session, Puan Haslina will provide an overview of the key challenges affecting river systems in Selangor, including flood risks, environmental pressures, and the need for more integrated river management. She will also share practical insights from on-the-ground resilience building efforts, highlighting both the interventions undertaken as well as the implementation challenges faced. Listen closely, as some of the context Puan Haslina provides may inform the decisions you incorporate into your solutions. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Puan Haslina.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and Assalamualaikum, and very good morning to all the students and also the professor that joined this RIFA webinar for today. Thank you to the SC for inviting LUAS to join and collaborate with your team, including from the SMG partners and others. So today I will share about the Integrated Water Resources Management, or we call it as IWRM, towards water resources sustainability in the states of Selangor. And as a background, for your information, when we call it LUAS or Lembaga Urus Air Selangor, we are the local agency or the river basin organization that manage the water resources, river basin, and coastal waters in Selangor. So we are the regulator that ensure that you have a good water quality and must ensure that you have sufficient water in Selangor. So from your side, you can see in Selangor, we have the 7 main river basin. So 7 main river basin, and when we talk about the RIFA challenge, we will go to the Klang River Basin. The Klang River Basin actually the 4th largest river basin in Selangor. It's about 1,200 kilometers square, and it includes about 14 sub-basins. So I think this is more challenges to the students to come up with the ideas, and during the sprint on the marathon challenge that has been spoke by the SC's chairmen. And then you can see from LUAS perspective, we are the agency that also doing the enforcement. So we are the agency that maintain the quantity and the quality. we do the monitoring and enforcement. We have the integrated approach and also the environment and ecosystem. So from your side, from the left side, you can see where we are actually. LUAS is the agency that regulate the water resources. But we know not only LUAS that manage the water resources, but also the other agency that we call it as integrated approach. Then we have a many stakeholders that use water in Selangor. They are aquaculture, they have the domestic industry, animal husbandry, and the others. But after we use the water, of course, we will discharge back the water to the nearest water sources or to the river or ponds or any lakes that related. So what is the important is we must know how much the water that has been extracted and how was the quality that has been discharged to our water resources. So if by the issue and the challenges, as we know, in Malaysia or in Selangor, actually we are receiving more than 3,000 millimeter rainfalls in a year. So we see that how we want to manage the water from the rainfall that has been in Selangor. If we have too much water, so we get flooded. But if we have the too little water, we get drought. So what is the issue in how we want to manage this component, either too much or too little water? It is because all the river basin in Selangor have rapid urbanizations, and we have the industrial development that have resulted in waterland and related resources within the basin becoming increasingly under stress. The threats because of the climate change, the deterioration of river water quality, degradation of environment, the complexity because we have the shared between the Kuala Lumpur and also the Negeri Sembilan and also Perak, and also the water security challenges that I've spoken before. So it means that all these issues and challenges must be overcome to ensure the sufficient and the quality water. So in terms of the strategy, the first one is quantity and quality control. For Selangor, actually, we are the regulator and we do the licensing. For example, for the licensing and water abstraction charges, actually, for people that of premises that abstract the water, they must get the license from Lembaga Urus Air Selangor or LUAS. And if you want to discharge the effluent, you must get the license also from LUAS. And then we have a new policy that we call as zero discharge policy. So for the zero discharge policy, it was first in Selangor and also first in Malaysia. Actually, the purpose of this policy is to control mechanism of quantity and quality of effluent discharge. And we actually want to promote the premises of all the industrial players to reuse and recycle back their wastewater. So it means when we recycle and reuse back the wastewater, actually we will minimize the pollution load towards the water resources. And of course, we will increase the water quality in the river. For number 2 is about the policy that has been established. We have 2 state policy that we call as strategic river basin management. Selangor State Strategic Lake Management Policy. Actually, this policy, we want to ensure that the river is maintained as it is, as natural as it is. So how about the lake? So the lake also must be maintained as it is because lake and river is the area that will cater all the capacity of rainfall that has been dropped in Selangor. So it means that when we try to divert the river, so of course it will be some sort like increase the velocity of the river and maybe the possible to get the flooding in the area that in the low-lying area. So this means that the most low-lying area, mostly in the river reserve. When we are talking the river reserve, we must control all the activity in the river reserve to ensure that the capacity of the river will be not effect and the river will flow naturally. For number 3, about river basin monitoring and surveillance, in Selangor only, you can see we have a 24 hours monitoring. We have the strategic hotspot that has been monitored in Selangor River and Langat River, as we talked by the SC chairman. Selangor River Basin is about more than 60% supply towards the Selangor and Klang Valley. So if you are staying in Shah Alam, So you can see that your water actually come from the Sungai Selangor Basin. It's not from the Kelang Basin. So nowadays, the Air Selangor will work out about the Rasau treatment plant. So the Rasau treatment plant will be at the middle of the Kelang River Basin. And it is a very challenges to maintain the water quality because the river will be abstract to treat the water and supply back to the users. This is strategy number 4, that in Selangor, we are not only dependent on the river and also the dam, but we also have the alternative water resources for water security. For number 1, actually, the state government has been developed the Water Resources Assurance Scheme. Actually, this is a part of the component, including the infrastructure and also the diversion of the Selangor River for the purpose of water supply. In this case, actually, during the pollution occurred, actually, the treatment plant or the water intake will abstract the water from the ponds. So it means that all the users will not be affected. So you will get the continuous water supply because we have the backup, or we have the alternative of water sources that from the ponds. So from this, actually, Selangor will have the Selangor of River Storage Scheme. So we call it SORS. So all the pond in Selangor has been evaluated. More than 100 pond has been recognized. So we will have the pond as the alternative water resources and will be used during the drought season or during the water levels very low. So we will pump back the water to the river. And the third one is Horas 3000 with the capacity more than 3,000 million cubic meter. Actually, this area has been gazetted as zone of protection. When we gazette this area, actually, we will ensure that the activity will be controlled with the written approval from Lembaga Urus Air Selangor. This is a future project that we will have not only from the river as the water sources, but we have the pond as the water sources. And number 5, referring to the number 4, we are using the water sources as alternative. We also can use it as dual functions. So it means that the pond is not storage water during the high flow, so it will be reduced the flooding area, but we can use back the water during the drought season. So it means that this is the management that we are in Selangor embarked towards using the dual functions ponds, because we can use the water from the pond during the dry season. The last but not least about the communities and all the people that living in the rivers, or the people that have interest, or the stakeholders in the conservation of water resources and its environment. In LUAS, we are not working alone. We are not working with agency. We are also working with the community. We are working with the university students, all the lecturer to promote about the public awareness and community empowerment. Actually, we have the Friends of River at Selangor Initiative, which is all the people that very interested in terms of the water conservation. We register with LUAS, and they have a lot of activity will be done, and also the FOR is the voluntary basis activity. So from this, actually, what I can say before I'm finalized the presentation, that all the people, including the student of university, the lecturer, all the community, all the stakeholders, all the private sector must work together with their state's government, with the agency, to ensure the sufficient of the water and also the good water quality water. So it means that we can protect our river with good collaboration among others in Selangor. I think that's all, Ms. Pri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Puan Haslina, for that comprehensive overview. Puan Haslina has given you all a lot of information. I believe there are some pretty useful nuggets of information there for you to consider. Remember, the Q&A chat is open if you'd like to ask Puan Haslina or any other panelists any questions, and we will respond to you in the chat. So thank you again, Puan Haslina. I really like the framing of the problem that you posed as being having either too much water or too little water. Might I add a third, too dirty, because our challenges with flooding, water stress, and pollution are all interconnected. I think the RIFAR challenge this year really ties them all together. But why tell you when we could show you? Sit back, relax, and check out the RIFAR Challenge 2026 launch video.
Malaysia's rivers supply our water. sustain our communities, and run through the heart of our most populated corridors, but they are increasingly under threat. Floods account for 85% of Malaysia's natural disasters.
Most of our drinking water comes from rivers. And why now? Is because we can already see the changes in terms of rainfall intensity and even where the rainfall is falling. Why is the SC getting involved? There is a role for private sector to play. As a Securities Commission, we would like to see how we can facilitate the crowding in of private money in order to help the government bear this burden.
It disrupts daily movement, affects communities, and result in direct business losses. Focus must go beyond managing flood events, but towards strengthening the overall resilience of the river system.
For the first time, this year's challenge comprises two tracks, the sprint and the marathon. The sprint is really an awareness challenge, where teams produce a social media reel highlighting river-related issues in Selangor. The marathon is a deeper technical challenge. Teams will design an integrated flood mitigation intervention for Taman Sri Muda along Sungai Rasau.
The area experiences frequent flooding during periods of heavy rainfall, primarily due to its low-lying location within an urban catchment. One of the key issues is the limited drainage capacity. In addition to that, the site is exposed to backflow risk from Sungai Pelang.
We do need to start that conversation, and we do need to involve the next generation of people, yourselves, as part of this discussion. And I think it's important that you also have a say in what you're inheriting.
Now, I'm sure you're all thinking, wow, can I win 32,000 ringgit this year instead of just 25,000 ringgit from joining both the sprint and the marathon? Well, the answer is yes, technically, as long as you meet the eligibility criteria. But that's not the point. Through RIFAR, we want to get as many students involved as possible to raise awareness on strengthening the resilience of Malaysia's rivers, whether that's through a reel in the sprint or a transformative adaptation solution in the marathon. Let's see what you've got. Up next, I'm pleased to introduce Encik Ashazri, Director of Project Management at LLSB. Encik Ashazri will talk you through the Selangor Maritime Gateway and specifically the RIFAR Marathon Challenge site, Taman Sri Muda. It's a live example of flood risk and why adaptation planning is needed in such a vulnerable area. For those interested in the RIFAR sprint, while the challenge extends to all rivers in Selangor for you, listen closely to better understand the issues surrounding the river and potential solutions to address them. Please join me in welcoming Encik Ashazri.
Okay, this session is especially important because we are not just track climate's idea, but we are discussing a real opportunity to make a difference. My name is Ashazri, and I today will guide you through a case study on Taman Sri Muda Shah Alam, one of Malaysia's most flood-prone urban areas. This case will serve as a foundation for your RIFAR challenge, where your ideas, your creativity, and innovation are expected to shine. And I'm very excited for the RIFAR challenge, putting the spotlight on our rivers and its interconnectedness with many communities in KL and Selangor. By the end of this session, I hope you will not only understand the problem, but also feel inspired, design bold, practical, and financially viable solution. Okay, next, we go to the next slide. Perhaps I can start by a very simple introduction what is SMG is. SMG is a Selangor Maritime Gateway, and Landasan Lumayan Sdn Bhd LLSB appointed as a master developer of SMG to rejuvenate, rehabilitate 56 kilometers of Klang River, which is from Stretch Mid Valley all the way to Port Klang. Sorry. As part of our mandates, river rehabilitation is a key part of what we do. Related to the RIFAR challenge, LLSB is currently undertaking IWRM flood mitigation works for the 56 kilometer of the Klang River. This includes river dredging to increase the river capacity up to 40%. Currently, about 22% increase has been achieved. As of now, we are focusing on Block 3, which is involves some of the most flood-prone area like Taman Sri Muda and Kota Kemuning. Now, why this IWRM flood mitigation work happened in the first place? Perhaps many of you are familiar with the 2021 Malaysia flood. This one was the worst modern flood in Malaysia history and one of the most severely affected in Taman Sri Muda. So, just a bit background on the 2021 flood in Taman Sri Muda. The Taman Sri Muda covers about 400 hectares with a population of 45,000 people. Over 11,000 houses were affected. Flood depth reached about 3 meters. Rainfall exceeded the 100 years written period. This figure shows massive human and economic exposure. But the truth is, was not the first time major flood took place in TSM. In fact, it's happened over 8 times since 1995. As you can see from the photo, the exact same spot taken over 25 years apart. The recurring floods are not a coincidence, but it is primarily due to the natural elevation of Taman Sri Muda. The township that we know as Taman Sri Muda was built in low-lying area. Okay, as you can see in the slide, there's a residential industrial area located along Sungai Klang, which is nearer to the Sungai Klang River. Okay, as you can see, this ground elevation maps previously. Wait. Okay, as you can see from this ground elevation map, most of the TSM is situated between 3 to 5 kilometers above sea level. When river water exceeds this level, flooding happens quickly. This means traditional flood walls alone are not enough. This is the elevation map details. If you can see here, when the water level raises up to the 4 meter, most of the area surrounding Taman Sri Muda will submerge. This is where you can see that the population resident and factory temperature around this area, which is submerged due to the 4 meter level of water. And because of this, when the water topples over existing river bank structures that try to contain heavy flow, it can easily flood Taman Sri Muda. We have simulated a flood induction model where if the water level is about 4 meter, here is the clear that good chunk of the TSM is flooded. You can see the slide inside, which is the blue one is a water will flow over after 4 meters level water is up. If the water level reach 5.5 meter, then the entire area is pretty much flooded. Most area already submerged, even Taman Sri Muda and also Taman Sri Lembayung and the industrial park, which is the highest level, also submerged. Okay, if flood happen over and over again, this can have significant impact on the specific area. The 2021 flood resulted in a very big losses, especially for businesses. This does not include the flood damages that the state government had to bear. You can see a lot of money that government has spent for the flood mitigation plan, but still happen with the flood and the losses between 29 to 6 million, almost 36.1 million because of this flood issue. So as you can imagine, many residents of Taman Sri Muda are growing increasingly concerned about Taman Sri Muda's future. Many have not only voiced its anger, but many also expressed that the 2021 floods are still very traumatic for them. I'm sure you are aware of where this is going. This is some information of Taman Sri Muda. Here is the land use up the plot ratio. So we concentrate on the case study Jalan Sri Kandi 25/14. This is the specific case study that we have chosen for the RIFAR challenge in Jalan Sri Kandi. It is a residential area within Taman Sri Muda that is historically significant for its proximity to Sungai Rasau and its severe vulnerability to flooding. It's approximately 400 meters away from the river and is located in a low-lying floodplain with only 3-meter elevation. So you can imagine that vulnerable when there is a heavy rain in which the river is not being able to cater to its rainfall capacity. Community living in this area are so vulnerable, not only vulnerable to the physical risk of flooding, but it's also a big financial risk. Due to the recurring flood, the overall property values of houses in Taman Sri Muda has depreciated over time, which make it difficult to sell if there is such desire. At the same time, due to its high risk of flooding, there is a very little option for affordable flood insurance to cover their properties. Now, they are gapped as to finding a solution. Firstly, it's evident that conventional methods of river ban may not be sufficient. Is there a better solution? Which is we can find out a better way to solve this issue. Fragmented stakeholder coordination and lack of communication between different agencies and the communities are also an issue, as this can cause misunderstanding and misalignment. But most importantly, plan and mitigation related to reduce flood risk as a struggle to be financially viable, placing a big burden government to search for sustainable solution. Okay. Now, based on slide Jalan Sri Kandi 25/14, you can see the different water level, 3 meters, 3.5 meters, 4 meter, and 5 meter, which is a few area, especially at Zone 1 Trans Taman Sri Muda, when the water level reach up to 3 meter, a small area affected. But when it comes to the 4.5 meter, most of the area already submerged. Yeah. Now this is an existing measure nearby. As you can see, state of government already launched a lot of flood mitigation project, which is Tebatan Sungai Banjir, Tebatan Banjir Sungai Kelang di section 25, and also ours flood mitigation plan, and others project which is government spend a lot of money, but still not enough to cater when the heavy rain and big flood happen. Okay, for you, we are looking for proposal that implementable intervention that can reduce flood risk while it's being financially viable. And you can see here, there's one past project and ongoing project which is currently happen. Projek mitigasi banjir sepanjang 56 km Sungai Kelang, Klang River Basin Environmental Improvement and Flood Mitigation Project, Projek RTB Sungai Kelang, RTB Sungai Rasau, kerja-kerja naik taraf sistem saliran, and others. This is a past and ongoing mitigation project along Klang River. Address to the challenges to achieving the greater climate resilience for community through integrated engineering and socio-environmental approach. Have a think of what is possible to address the root cause of flooding for the case study area. At the same time, your proposal should also ensure financial visibility through different funding approach. What is most viable? We want your proposal to be scalable and possible for real-world implementation within 10 years plan. Most importantly, we are looking for a bold idea that push beyond conventional solution and should be creative. Anyway, I think that's all for SMG regarding our projects and also river flood adaptation and resilience challenge. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Encik Ashazri. As you can see from Encik Ashazri's presentation, the challenge poses a problem that is both real and complex. SMG has attempted various flood mitigation efforts. You can see the problem recurs, and we need your bright, innovative solutions to try help addressing it. For sprinters, we're looking for you to put your doom scrolling, social media expertise to good use by developing a short reel. So identify issues along the rivers in Selangor, frame a myth or misconception versus reality of what's actually going on, and pose a solution for what we can actually do to fix it. For our marathon track, you know the drill from KOFAR. Develop a structure that combines an engineering solution with a capital market financing component, and this time include a mitigation co-benefit like renewable energy generation. Now, last but certainly not the least, to conclude this webinar, I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Shanola Gonzalez, Head of Malaysia, ICAEW, to conclude the RIFAR Challenge launch webinar and leave you with a final message. Shanola, over to you.
Thank you, Pri. Good morning, everyone. Datuk Muhammad Faiz Azmi, Executive Chairman of Securities Commission of Malaysia. Puan Haslina binti Amir, Chief Assistant Director, Lembaga Urus Air Selangor Luas. Encik Ashazri bin Anwar, Director of Project Management Landasan Lumayan, Master Developer of Selangor Maritime Gateway. Professors, students, ladies and gentlemen, as we close today's launch, I would like to leave you with a simple thought. The RIFAR Challenge is about rivers, flood, resilience, and adaptation. But more importantly, it is about how ideas become solutions and how we prepare the next generation to solve problems that cuts across disciplines. Climate risk is not just an environmental issue. As you've heard today, it shows up as economic disruption, financing challenges, and most importantly, social vulnerability. The solutions, therefore, cannot sit with one discipline alone. It must be interdisciplinary, practical, investable, and as Encik Ashazri points out earlier, scalable. This is what makes this challenge so powerful. Through the sprint and the marathon, students are being asked to think differently. Bring together your engineering, sustainability, finance, communications in response to a real national challenge. For us at ICAEW, this is very aligned with our purpose and feeds directly into our qualification. The future of the ACA is not just about technical knowledge. It is about judgment, systems thinking, and the ability to connect financial, environmental, and social dimensions in decision making. We often speak about sustainable finance in abstract terms. Now, RIFAR makes that real. Ask the practical questions. How do you turn climate risk into solutions? How do you make sure that your ideas are not just sound, but viable? Now, these are leadership questions, not just academic ones. So to students here today, whatever your background, there is a place for you in this challenge. The sprint gives a platform for the power of storytelling and influence. The marathon is for those focused on building and implementation. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the partners behind this initiative, the Securities Commission through the TRACK agenda, together with LUAS, SMG, the Jeffrey Sachs Center, and others who have shown what cross-sector collaboration looks like in practice. Adaptation will only be achieved through collaboration across institutions, sectors, and generation. The rivers connect communities, ecosystems, and economies. In the same way, this challenge connects ideas, disciplines, and people around a shared purpose. As the saying goes, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. If this initiative sparks even a few ideas that shift how we think about river resilience in Malaysia, that is meaningful progress. So to students, be bold, challenge the assumptions, and most importantly, trust the value of your ideas. On behalf of ICAEW Malaysia, we are proud to support this initiative and look forward to seeing what you bring forward as the future generation. Thank you again to the Securities Commission and all our partners, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Over to you, Pri.
Thank you very much, Shinola. I'm very, very excited for what the RIFAR Challenge brings and for all the solutions that our students will bring to the table. And with that, we've come to the end of the RIFAR Challenge launch webinar. To all interested, don't forget to register your teams by 12th May 2026. That's 12th May 2026. You can scan the QR code on the screen to visit the website, which includes the challenge brief, the safety guide, the terms and conditions, and all the information you need on both the sprint and the marathon. Remember to register your teams by 12th of May. And remember, our rivers need you. On behalf of the SC and RIFAR partners, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.